I think it's a state of mind where you can process the data around you, reality, make sense of it in a healthy way.
Welcome to the Soon podcast, where we share stories, insights, and tools to help you live a happier life. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Soon podcast. I'm your host, Soon, and today I'm really excited to invite my friend Efrain Rozas to talk about his work, life, and what happiness means to him. Before we dive in, let me give you a brief bio of Efrain. Efrain is a Peruvian interdisciplinary artist, researcher, and robotics maker. His work was described as an incredible physical presence that transformed the stage into a soundscape by the New York Times. He's a Jerome Hill Artist Fellow for Combined Arts, and his work has been performed at Lincoln Center, Kennedy Center, Brooklyn Museum, and many others. He was also featured at CNN, BBC, Washington Post, Daily News, and NPR. Hi, Efrain. How are you?
Hi, Zoom. I'm very well. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. For our subscribers who are not familiar with your work, can you tell us more about what kind of interdisciplinary art you do?
Well, I'm mainly a musician. I come from music, but very organically, my work started to go into other spaces like working with robotics. I started coding, but then I started working with motors, especially with percussion. I'm a percussionist. I play different instruments, but mainly percussion. So I started experimenting with robotics, motors, percussion, algorithms that generate real-time patterns for percussion. Then I started robotic devices starting to turn into sculptors. And then I started to perform in kind of ritual situations with these robotic sculptors. And it was very organic. Started working with light, but not as I like to work with these elements, not as add-ons, like, okay, this is the music and we're gonna make some light for the music, but to compose having everything in mind at the same time. So that's the best way I can describe my work as an interdisciplinary artist.
That's awesome. Then I guess your work is based on, usually it starts from music.
And my work, I think, starts from a feeling, but
Feeling.
music, I think, is the medium where I feel where I can handle more elements, I guess. But it's always together. Actually, for me, I'm realizing more and more this. I think my biggest inspiration for me is visual art. I always get from visual arts concepts, and then I translate into music, but the music always comes with a visual aspect or with a performative aspect. But sometimes, I only work in music too. Like we met at the So Percussion Summer Institute, right? So there, for example, it was just writing a piece of music, no? That in the end also, when it was performed, had a visual aspect to it. We're gonna work on a video with some of the performers in the future. But yeah, it's music, but other things too.
You mentioned robotics. Can you tell us more about it? How did you get into robotics? Did you study robotics in school, or did you teach yourself, or do you code, or how does it work?
I started coding a while ago using MaxMSP. My roommate was an engineer actually, and he taught me a little bit of MaxMSP. Then I went to a PhD at NYU, and I had some classes there with Luc Dubois and Elizabeth Hoffman. And at the PhD, I also took classes at the engineering department. And in that department, I started to learn how to work with motors, soldering, circuits. I did classes with Benedetta Piantella. She was an amazing teacher. And yeah, it started very organically. Yeah, in MaxMSP, I started coding a drum machine, that instead of one clock, what we usually have in a drum machine or in a DAW, you have one clock and this grid, that time flows from left to right. I created this drum machine that had four independent clocks with independent grids that can move very easily for displacement, for phasing. So it was more friendly for a person who comes from percussion, Latin American music, very oriented towards polyrhythm. So I created this drum machine that is oriented for polyrhythm. And then this drum machine, once I started working with motors, with basically, things that bang stuff, I said, this is perfect. I can use this software as the brain for these motors, and yeah, it was like that, very organically. It started very simply. It started with a little stick banging a bell, playing the clave, and then it took over many years of my life. So I studied a little bit, but then it became a research of my own. And also it became a matter of not only coding and working with motors, but design too. Once it was working, it becomes a thing, like it's a thing that, because it's improvising in real time, it's almost as it is, it's kind of alive in a way. It has a life of its own. It's an object that is present, and it's a little bit independent of you, especially because it was playing these rhythms that are very danceable. People were telling me, it's weird to see a robot playing these things that are so organic, So I really like that sensation of having a robotic device that can take us to these organic places, and the places of where the body rules, supposedly, dance and trance and ritual. So I started doing these performances that did that. But yeah, that's the story with the robotics and the coding. It was very organic. I never knew I was gonna do that. If you would ask me 10 years ago if I was gonna be performing with robots on stage, I would never have imagined it.
Oh, that's so cool. You performed with robots. You also performed with other humans, right? What are the differences, like based on experiences? How would you describe your experiences? And, I would be interested to hear about it because I've never performed with robots before.
For me, performing with these robotic sculptures, it was not just not a matter of kind of replacing humans or kind of displaying this technology of how effective it is. It was almost the contrary. Like the first performance I did with this robotic sculptor, it was called Robot Teach Us to Pray. Like robot teach us to pray, to how can technology help us to expand our mind and our body, to get closer to God or whatever you want to call it, to these spiritual mysteries that we have in life, and to happiness too, as opposed to what we usually encounter, technologies that are made to turn everything into data that is bought or sold, or technologies that are made to make you addicted, so you're all day in the telephone so it can suck your information. So another kind of technology. And it was very organic too. At first, I had this percussive robot that was playing things. It's almost like I uploaded my logic of rhythm, and this robot played things that I really liked. So I started dancing in my house on my own. It became like a therapy for me. I started doing things that I was embarrassed of. I closed the curtains, even confronting my own embarrassment with myself. Now I look at myself at the mirror and did things that, why am I embarrassed of me? Nobody's looking, like masculinity, also trying to heal that, getting in touch with my feminine side, with states that we don't want to go there, that are considered to be animal or abject or crazy. I started exploring all these mental states very organically. I didn't plan it. It was like that. And I said to my friend, I want to do this performance. Could you dance like this and like this? Because I said, I have to show this to someone. And my friend told me, no, you have to do it. You are the one who has to dance this. And it was very vulnerable to expose these things that I had done with my curtains down in my privacy. Like, I did it. I did these performances that were titled Robot Teach Us to Pray. And the praying was that. The praying was using the robot to generate this ritual situation where I just expose myself, sharing these findings that I have, of these places where I was going with music, mental and spiritual places. And it changed me. It was very good for me, actually. It was very good. So yeah, I don't know if I could have done that with another person. Maybe yes. Like, but it happened like it was so intimate, the robot, because it was my brain kind of uploaded to this machine. It gave me this freedom to be just. I don't think I would have ever done that in a rehearsal with someone. Maybe other people can do it, but not me. It was liberating. So then that was the difference, with what I can say was my experience with robots. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
For me, it was important to also to make this statement, that this question, where is technology going? Like, can technology help us expand the sacred in our lives? This concept emerged, the sacred. I understand the sacred as what cannot be bought or sold. Today, everything seems to be can be bought or not, can be bought or sold. Technology, the iPhone, apps turn everything into data that can be bought or sold. Tinder turns love or relationships or sex into data that can be bought or sold. Everything can be bought or sold today. But what is the technology that takes care of the sacred, of what cannot be bought or sold, that cultivates the sacred? That question I also wanted to put across. I think it's important in our time. I think the sacred is a very important aspect for happiness too. Since we're going to talk about happiness, I think we need the sacred. Human beings need the sacred, need a space where you don't buy or sell, you respect, you take off your shoes to walk in that place, metaphorically, of course, no? Like a place where it's pure, where you can go and you can grab ideas from there, inspiration or ideas for living better. We need that. And it would be nice if we had more spaces like that.
Yeah, I like that. I guess robotics sculpture maybe, I mean, can be your another self, right? Because you put your idea into it.
Yes.
So you feel more comfortable sharing your feelings with it, as opposed to another human. So you feel that it is safe to share your feelings.
Yeah, and this project, Robot Teach Us to Pray, was part of a larger series called Myth and Prosthesis. It was like a prosthetic device, something like I
Mm.
attached to my brain or my body. It's very intimate. Robotics can be very intimate. Like that's another question. How are we integrating with technology? We are integrating with technology. The fact that we don't have cables, it doesn't mean that this thing is already attached. The algorithm and the cloud, it's an extension of our bodies and our minds. We are already integrating with technology. We are already androids, and it's gonna get better as or more and more.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that question, how are we integrating with technology? I think that is a key question that everybody should be asking themselves. What is my relationship with technology? It's inevitable. Like we're already there.
Yeah, one of my friends, he actually told me that he's been using AI as his therapist, and he feels more comfortable sharing his feelings with AI because he feels that somehow he feels more comfortable as opposed to like a human therapist. So he said he's been kind of casually chatting, sharing what he's up to whenever he feels down or depressed. He talks to the AI. It has been really helpful for him.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think those relationships are gonna be there more and more. I saw a documentary a couple of years ago about people in Europe who had relationships with this kind of technologies. There was a woman whose husband passed away, and they uploaded all this information of her chats with the husband and uploaded into the AI, and she had this friendship with this AI, and she said, I don't have time to make friends. I scary to know because it has to do a lot with loneliness, this documentary. Also, older people who have AI to take care of them. And at first, these older people, in time, they developed a relationship and they developed affects towards these machines that were talking to them and taking care of them. It's gonna be there. Relationships with non-human or AI are gonna be there. And also, a good question is what you tell me about your friend. No, what is these companies of AI? What are they doing with this data? It's very deep. This data that your friend is sharing with the computer, with the AI. What are they doing with that? I think that is an important question too, but because you would think that a therapist has an ethic, no, like a non-disclosure or whatever. But is there an ethic in the AI side? I don't think so. I don't think they just want to suck information from you and sell it at any price. So I think they're gonna get to know us more and more and more. And what are they gonna do with that? I have no idea. But I think many people must be doing that, and we are doing that unknowingly, and there is no regulation. These are big questions that we have to keep in mind, no? This is an interesting subject, no? We're trying to relate it with happiness too, like happiness and our relation with technology, no? Like what's the future of happiness with these cyber
yeah,
relationships?
definitely. I think the speed of current technology is too fast. The legal and ethics aspect of it is, I think, too slow or
Yes.
having a hard time kind of catching up with the speed of the technology. There's a lot of issues. What are they going to do with the data? How are they going to use it? Or, who's going to safeguard it? Like, are they going to make profits out of our data? Or where's our privacy? All these issues, it's huge, but no one knows the answer. That's the scary part.
I
Yeah.
think a key part is responsibility. I feel that these companies, they just want to make money, and it's like that. And of course, they're making these beautiful technologies like the one we're using today to communicate. It's amazing, but they want to make profit of it. It's not like they are a philanthropists. There must be some philanthropy technology, but most of it's not. So I think it's on us to take care of our mind. It's mental health. It's an issue of mental health, I think, technology now. If you're abusing the internet, if you are using it to cope with pain, with sadness, if you're using it in healthy ways, because it's beautiful too, There's so much cool information, there's therapy, books. So I think it's on each of us how we use it.
I think keeping the balance is important.
Super important.
Yeah. Otherwise, we might depend on the AI too much. And I wanted to ask you this question. How would you define happiness in one sentence, if you can define it?
I've been scared of this question because I knew you were going to ask it. But let me. I haven't thought of it. I'm gonna think right now. This is a super big question. I thought of it a little bit before coming to the interview. I think happiness. I'm gonna give kind of a circular answer. I think happiness is your capability of being happy, something like that. I think it's a state of mind where you can process the data around you, reality, make sense of it in a healthy way. I think it has
Um,
to do a lot of that with that capability in your mind and psyche. Yes, it's not so much about something outside, but more about something about your capabilities of dealing with reality in a
uh,
healthy way. Yeah.
so your own capability.
In my experience, of course, that is very specific.
Do you have your own like methods that you do to kind of nurture this capability?
Yes. Meditation, physical activity, sports, some kind of therapy, be it going to a psychologist, which I did therapy many years. Now I go every once in a while to my therapist, but mostly read books, keeping shape my psyche. Spiritual practice of some kind, no? Some connection with something transcendent. Cultivate relationships with people, friends. I have added one to my list from your show, from the last episode I saw. I have started to take pictures of, I never took pictures with my iPhone, very rarely, but now I'm really trying to document happy moments. I think that's what I saw in the last episode. I think that's very important to keep memories that are make you happy and really treasure them. I have started to do that. That's a new hobby I have to really take pictures. I'm gonna do an archive, photographic archive. But yeah, those things, I think basically that, and which I can summarize in taking responsibility of your mental health, and taking responsibility in developing this muscle. Just like you can get better at playing an instrument, I think you can get better at being happier. I think it's a capability, it's a muscle. According to my belief system, it's connected to something very big, which
Mhm.
I call God, or but I know God has been monopolized by many religions. I think it's important that we can also take those words back and give them our own meaning. I'm not related to a specific religion, but I do believe that there are forces that are bigger than us, and they have to do with this muscle that we're talking
Mm.
about. It's a transcendental muscle. Consciousness too has to do with.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I actually shared about this in my on my Substack post. I also believe that, we can build a mental muscle, similar to our physical muscle. A lot of us, we go to gym and work out to build muscle, physical muscle, but we don't do much workout for our mentals to build our mental muscle, right? And I think a mental muscle is critical for our health and
Yes.
happiness.
Sorry to interrupt. Eating well is another tool that I think is a must.
Definitely. Yeah. Do you have any ongoing projects or upcoming projects that you want to share?
Right now, after the Soul Percussion Festival that we attended, I was very inspired to make more pieces for percussion ensembles. I'm actually going to work with Michael Yu, who I met there too. We're going to do some recordings of new pieces. I'm also working on a new show, concert involving percussion and these robotic sculptures and other devices.
How can our subscribers stay connected with you and learn more about what you do?
They can visit my website, is efrainrosas.com, and my Instagram, my name, Efrain Rozas. And there's always information there, and they can read more about what we talked.
Sounds good. Do you have any final piece of advice you want to share with our subscribers?
I think, we both are artists, we're involved in this artistic world. I think people who are sensitive, if there is anybody out there who feels like their feelings are too much, I can tell them that for me, there was a big change in my life. Before I was not happy, I had problems, I always anxiety. I think people who are sensitive, this world can be very difficult. If you think you're a sensitive person, I advise that you do these things: exercise, therapy, spiritual practice, eating well, sports. It works. It really works. It can change your brain and the way you and your soul and the way you are in the world. I really recommend that to anyone who feels like that. I think, and we have to take responsibility. This sensitivity is our gift too, but it can be also a burden because it's not easy to be a sensitive person in the current world. So, but there are these tools, and we have to use them if we are like that, in order to give the best of our sensitivity, our talents to the world.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Eat well, exercise, and take care of your mental health is super important to stay
Yes.
happy. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today, Efrain. See you next time.
See you. Bye.
That's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're listening to this on a podcast platform, please leave us a review on the iTunes and Spotify. That's the best way to support us and help us reach more listeners like you. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, please leave comments down below. And if you enjoyed this episode, please hit the subscribe button if you didn't already. Also, to stay up to date, please subscribe to my newsletter on zoom.substack.com. Okay, that's it. See you next time.